What's up, home diggity dogs? So, welcome back to the channel, and it's been a while. So in this video, I'm going to talk about my experiences getting shredded during a 6-month diet. The good, the bad, the really bad. I'm going to talk about it all. Full transparency. If you've ever thought about getting shredded or just wondered what it is actually like, this is the video for you. So, over the course of about 6 months, from mid to late November until the end of May, I lost about 15 kilos, or roughly 30 to 35 pounds. And I was not super fat at the start. I was probably low 20% in body fat, and I probably finished around 8 or 9%, somewhere around there. And I would describe this as a giga cut. So this is not just a cut that potentiates a bulk. There is really nothing to be gained here in terms of long-term progress in the gym. This was just something that I did for the experience, something that I did as an experiment, something that I did knowing that it would hurt my progress, but it's something that I've always wanted to do. I have cut in the past, but I didn't quite get as lean as I wanted, and so this is one final hurrah to see if I could do it. And the goal was stage level elite natural bodybuilding condition. I'm not sure if I entirely got there. I got pretty damn close. My arms were completely shredded. You could see all the fibers in the arm. Not just the overall definition, not just some vascularity, but the actual fibers of the biceps. Triceps, again, also feathered. Quads are feathered. Back at a Christmas tree. And, I would say I probably got down to around 8 or 9% body fat, perhaps even 7%. I had a full six-pack for the first time in my life. I, had veins in the middle of my abs and lower abs, and, I got pretty damn lean. I had the death face. It's sort of filled out now a little bit, thankfully, but the last month to month and a half, people were giving me weird looks. My wife started bringing me food. She was kind of concerned for me, and it was rough the last month or so. Now, the pinnacle of natural bodybuilding conditioning, it's not the abs, it's the glutes. It's having fully shredded and striated glutes. I didn't quite get there. I got pretty close. I thought about showing a picture, and I will show a picture, even though my channel is a little bit more mainstream. I literally worked my ass off for this, and, it gives you some perspective. It will be some tasteful side glute. Right, like some side boob is tasteful, not just full on, but I'll show some side glute. Hopefully, I don't get banned on YouTube for this. And this was about 2 weeks out, so I lost another 4 or 5 pounds from this level of conditioning, and I actually felt pretty okay in this condition. But yeah, from there things did not go well. All right, so now let's talk about the positives and the negatives. Now, there were a lot more negatives, so we'll start with those so we can end on a positive note. I had trouble sitting. So you look amazing in the gym, people are complimenting you, you're getting all this attention, etc., which I don't even like, by the way. I couldn't even sit down. It started where I would, my butt would start to hurt. I could feel my hip bones on my chair after like an hour. And over the last month or so, it got to the point where I couldn't sit down for more than about a minute or two. So I work from home. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a content creator. I couldn't work from home. I had to work from bed. I had to lie in bed and work from there on my computer because I couldn't sit down in a chair. Luckily, my boss was very understanding. I also had disrupted sleep for the last 3 to 4 weeks, where I would wake up at 4 or 5 a.m. I had been waking up to go to the bathroom for the past 3 or 4 months, but from there I just couldn't go back to sleep. I was just too hungry. I just was wide awake. I couldn't, I would sleep maybe 4 hours a night, sometimes 3 hours a night, 5 hours a night, and that's not 8 or 9 hours in bed. No, it's that's all the sleep that I got for the last 2 or 3 weeks. I don't think I had a single day over 5 hours. My hips tightened up a lot, so I would go for my morning walk, and I couldn't fully extend my femur behind me. So I'm sort of limping along. Everything is just tightened up, locked up, probably just from the stress. And so I'm getting in, 18,000, 19,000 limping steps a day. an hour and a half in the gym still, trying to work lower body, trying to retain all the muscle I can, not eating very much food, and, not just burning the candle at both ends, just like taking the candle, putting it on the ground, and just stomping the shit out of it. That's basically how it felt for the last 2 or 3 weeks. I also got lazy, and if you're a long-term follower or subscriber to the channel, you can tell because I've been a lot less productive, and you just don't have the energy to do anything. Like, you just train and that's the energy you have, and then, long-term clients and custom training plans, that would have to take priority because that's what I'm actually getting paid to do. And so, mental energy is certainly a finite resource when you're very deep into a cut, and you gravitate towards what is easy. So, Alex Leonidas, he actually did a cut about a month before me, so I was sort of seeing what I would have to go through before I actually went through it. And he talked about how he would be playing RuneScape, and you just gravitate towards easy stuff, towards like enjoyable, pleasurable stuff, because you don't have energy to do difficult, productive things. Caffeine, it was used and probably abused. I don't know a milligram amount per day, but certainly when you are very, very hungry and you are trying to suppress your appetite, you find that your hand, reaches for another cup and another cup and another cup, just because that's something you're relying on to suppress your appetite and just to try to keep the hunger at bay, which doesn't happen, by the way. The last few weeks, you're literally hungry all the time. All the time. You wake up, you're hungry. First thing you think about is food. You go to the gym. Usually when you're working out, you're not hungry. But when you're that lean, you are. You're hungry when you're working out. You're hungry after the workout. When you eat your meal makes you hungrier. It's not like the food satiates you at all. If anything, your body's like, oh, we do have access to food. You've been deceiving us. We want more of that, right? And so you're in varying states of hungry all the time, and you kind of just have to live with it. It doesn't matter what foods you eat. If someone's like, sparkling water, seltzer water, don't drink the water of peasants.
I drink expensive sparkling water out of glass bottles because plastic is for poor people.
Drinks this special water or do intermittent fasting. Nothing helps. It doesn't matter volume eating, anabolic diet, nothing. If you do the volume eating thing, which I did, I would have actually vegetables, right? Like, that's what I think actually volume eating should be. Do a whole video on that. But no matter how much volume of food you eat, it's not what your body wants. Your body wants energy. It wants carbohydrates. It wants fat. It wants calories, energy, and you're giving it something that it doesn't want. And so you'll feel like kind of bloated and full, but still hungry. Also, I would get stared at a lot, which some people like. Some people, that's probably half the reason they cut, just so they can get the attention. I personally don't like it. I found that to be a negative. I already get stared at a lot in China because I'm a foreigner and because, I don't know, the beard or the appearance. And so that was something that I didn't actually like. I mean, some people cut to go to the beach. I actually would not like that. If someone invited me to the beach when I was at my leanest, I wouldn't want to go. I mean, that's just my personality. For some people, it might be positive. For me, that was a negative. Strength went down. It was up for the first 5 months or maybe just stable. But yeah, the last month or so, you're just, kind of unmotivated to train because usually it's like you see the numbers going up. Well, you see the numbers going down. You don't even want to write it in your training log. You're like, okay, well, weaker than last week. Great. Libido went down noticeably. I mean, I was more interested in pizza than personal relationships. But I will note that everything still functioned, It wasn't... I just had less interest in it, but, it's still... Yep. I also didn't get injured, but I felt really beat up. I think the lack of fat around the joints really does take a toll. Normally when you have fat around your knees, because you notice that your knees do change in appearance. It's not just the quads that shred. Your knees look more knobbly and just you have veins in your knees and there's no fat around the joint. And normally the fat, I think, actually protects the joint. It's like nature's knee sleeve or something, right? Where you're squatting down and there's this nice padding around the joint. That just disappears. And so you think, you'll be able to rebound off of the fat at the bottom. You don't. You just go all the way down and there's just no resistance and it just feels different, and it just beats you up more. And then like the lack of calories and the increased activity, the increased cardio, the increased step count. I mean, it's rough. And so I didn't have any injuries, but I definitely felt a little bit crunchy. By the way, this video is sponsored by Boostcamp. Even though I did not track my calories or macros during this cut, I do think tracking your training is absolutely essential, and Boostcamp allows you to do that. Plus, it gives you access to some of the best programs on the internet. I myself have 2 programs up there, Rampage and Ravage. You can check them out. One is a 3-day per week full body training system. The other is a 6-day per week hypertrophy focused plan. Actually, they're both hypertrophy focused. The 6-day per week Ravage is what I have been running over the past few years. And so definitely check it out if you want to make those gains. And once again, thank you to Boostcamp for sponsoring this video. My clothes definitely fit differently. I'm clearly not into fashion, but I could tell like my clothes were just hanging off of me in a way that I didn't really like. Muscle is denser than fat, which means that you're going to just be taking up a lot less space. So when you remove that fat layer, which is actually taking up quite a bit of space, you're going to have just clothes, especially hoodies or something, that just, they feel like a tent, right? And you haven't lost any muscle, you've just lost that fat. Same with your measurements. I mean, I lost 3/4 of an inch on my arms. My right one went from 18.25 to 17.5, and then my left one was down to 17 inches flat by the end of it. I mean, I lost size everywhere. My quads were down to 24.5 inches, which is 2.5 inches lost on my legs. And that was mostly fat, because your fat has mass, and when you lose that, the measurement is going to go down. So generally, if someone's like, yeah, I put inches on my arms when I was shredding down, they're either a beginner or drugs. You know, when people are bulking into a show, they're gaining weight into a bodybuilding show, drugs every single time. So if you're natural, you're going to be losing weight, you're going to be losing size, and that's just how it is. As mentioned before, my wife got a little bit worried about me. I could tell. I actually didn't tell her what I was doing. Maybe I should have, but I didn't want it to impact her at all or for her to worry. You know, she would hug me every few weeks and be like, "Oh, ni真的很瘦. Like you really are getting thinner or skinny or leaner." And you know, I didn't want to have it be a situation where she had to support me, right? Or I had to rely on her, or it was inconveniencing her, or was like, you know, I was irritable or something. I felt that, but I was able to control it. You know, I would get some DM on Instagram or someone would be like, assess my body fat percentage now. And, you know, I just wouldn't respond or something. And, you know, I was able to not snap at anyone, but man, that temptation is definitely there. And I could feel that moodiness and irritability really start to rise, especially near the end. I also found that I was antisocial, well, more antisocial than usual. And, you know, I'm not someone who needs a lot of social interaction, but you just don't want to go out. You just either don't have the energy or you don't want to be around those kinds of foods. Most social interactions are, you know, they revolve around eating something. And I didn't want to be the guy who brought the chicken breast, broccoli, and rice or anything like that. I'll do a whole video on my diet separately. Luckily, I was able to eat pretty flexibly, not counting anything or tracking at all. But yeah, it does make you just kind of want to stay at home, eat, sleep, train. Well, not really eat much, and not really sleep much either by the end of it. Mostly just train, and then training sucks as well because you can't recover. So by the end of it, it's like everything kind of just gets taken away from you. All right, so there were some good things. First, lots of compliments, lots of like, bro, you look amazing, that kind of thing. Again, I don't really, I mean, I appreciate it, but it's not really like something that gets me like, oh, people are saying nice things about me. If anything, it's the opposite. Like I don't accept compliments very well. It's just how I am. I don't regret doing it, and I think it was a good experience, and I don't think it has messed me up in the long term at all. Hopefully. I'm still trying to get my sleep together. I fell asleep the other day at 7 p.m. and woke up at 2:30 a.m. Like, that's just how life is. I can't sleep past like 4:30 or 5 a.m. So, also, and this might be relevant to anyone trying to make it in the fitness industry, definitely noticed more coaching inquiries, more, you know, is better for business, more book sales, etc. which I found really funny because I didn't have the energy to coach more people, but I was getting way more inquiries. So the demand was way up, despite me not really doing anything, and the supply that I could actually put out was way down. And so I actually had to turn people away. I had to be like, yeah, maybe message me in a month or so, just because I don't need the money, and I didn't really have the energy to handle the workload. Also, I did get a lot of footage from the shredded state, which I think is probably a useful thing if you're in the fitness industry. But eventually, I mean, I didn't even do a photo shoot. I know a lot of people were very interested in that, so it might seem a little bit anticlimactic, but that's just how I roll. I don't cause any climaxes. Also, I have learned a lot about the training process, about fatigue management. Alberto Nunez said that it makes your physique more transparent, and it just makes the process more transparent. If you do something good, it shows up. If you do something bad, it really shows up. Whereas when you're bulked, it's really hard to tell exactly what is working or not working. Whereas when you're shredded, I mean, if you're retaining water, you can see it. You can see it even in a number of hours. You go from like kind of bloated to just diced, right? So your physique changes more rapidly. If you get a bad night's sleep, when you're bulked up, it doesn't matter that much. But when you're shredded down, you can feel that pretty much instantly. And so it is a decent feedback mechanism for improving the process. That being said, I don't recommend to get shredded so that you can try to figure out training, right? That just doesn't really make sense. It's more of a side benefit. Just got delivery. Speaking of that, my initial goal was to actually maintain it, which in hindsight was kind of naive. It seemed maybe plausible. You know, when you're dieting down and you're in a deficit and you're lean, you might think, oh, well, I could actually sustain this if I just added in a few hundred calories and I ate at maintenance. It would be easy. I think physiologically it would be, but psychologically, if you don't have a goal, if you're not pushing forward, it is actually very, very difficult to maintain. So hats off to people who can maintain a shredded physique year-round. There are some natural guys who can maintain 9 or 10% body fat year-round. Usually they're not making great progress, but it is maintainable for some people, just not for me. I have too big of an appetite. I have to restrict way too much. I have to have too much activity to sustain that. And so, I've rebounded about 10 pounds in the last 2 to 3 weeks. And that is with trying to maintain, right? That is me not just saying, hey, let's eat everything. No, that is me dragging my feet and still gaining weight fairly rapidly. I think right now at around 200 pounds, this is where I'm sort of out of the danger zone. You can see in the weight chart a pretty rapid spike, but I think that is probably the best thing to do. I did get pretty freaking lean, and I think at this body weight and body composition, training is just going to be a lot more productive, and I'm not going to main gain or recomp from here. I am going to bulk again because I want to make those sweet-ass gains. I think there is still a lot of room to grow. My physique is nowhere near complete, and I'm excited to make progress again. So, do I regret it? No. It was a good experience. It's something I've always wanted to do. Do I recommend it to most people? No. Okay? If someone is like, yeah, I want to get shredded, and most of the time it just doesn't really make any sense. Maybe if you've been lifting 5+ years, you have all your shit together, you've gotten successfully to 12 or 13% body fat before, and all your ducks are in a row, if that's a saying. What a weird saying. What does my brain do? Clearly still fucked up. Why are they in a row? Why ducks? What are these ducks doing? Someone's gonna have to comment below if you know where did this come from. It's also worth noting that literally every single negative of that whole list that I talked about was from under 10% body fat or so. 11% I felt fantastic. 12% felt fantastic. Literally every single body fat percentage above around 10%, I felt great. And this is going to vary a little bit. Obviously, it's individual. But for me, it's just that last little bit. That's where the body fights back. That's where the body shuts down. That's where things don't go very well. And if you're just cutting to potentiate a bulk, go until you start noticing those signs and symptoms, and then go back into a gaining phase. And will I do this again? Well, I'm not going to say no. Maybe in another 5 or 6 years when I forget how difficult it was, and I have the rose-colored glasses and the rosy memories of how it wasn't. But not every year. This is not something you can really do every year as a natural lifter, in my opinion, just because it takes 4 to 6 months for most people to get in that kind of condition, and then you also have to recover from it, which takes another month or two, perhaps. And so you lose most of the year of making gains, and that's why most natural bodybuilders seem to compete once every 3 to 4 to 5 years. And, realistically, I at least another 5 years, 6 years, right? And it doesn't make sense to do it before then. I will be bulking and cutting, but not this lean. And finally, I just want to say thank you everyone for the support, for the kind messages, etc. It has been difficult putting out content. I filmed a number of videos, but I wasn't really happy with the vibe. It was either like really aggressive or just scatterbrained, etc. And so now that this saga is finished, the next one begins, and I'll be putting out content more frequently. Thank you so much for the support, especially those who have gotten my books, and I will see you in the next video. Peace!